As Flint makes his way to Lucas and Klaus, he's reminded that Hinoa is still missing.
I'm sure Hinoa is taking shelter from the rain somewhere. The forest would never do anything to hurt the people of Tazmily Village. If anyone dares hurt Hinoa, I'll kick their butts, even if it's a pillbug or an ant. No mercy, basically.
Bud and Lou are so confident she's safe, they're willing to joke about it. It's only a matter of time before she's found. But is humor really appropriate right now? No, not really, but it's there anyways. I'll explain why later.
Oh, Flint, Duster, this way, this way!
Flint sprints over to see his boys. They're huddled next to a fire, wrapped in towels, with their clothes hung to dry.
Dad,
Lucas says timidly. Klaus is silent. They leap toward their father, who embraces them. Tessie offers everyone tea to stay warm, while Flint's children cling to him in silence. The music is ominous. The melody is reused from the first time Flint went to the forest. If you can recall, I described it as quirky with a spark of heroism. This time, however, it's slow and foreboding, played by serious strings. A flute rocks up and down in unease. There's nothing happy about this song. For this next scene, I'm going to stay quiet, except for the dialogue. It works a lot better visually, so if you're listening to this like a podcast, I highly recommend taking a look at your screen for the next few minutes.
Flint!
Flint. I'm not sure what to say, but just stay calm and hear me out. I have good news and I have bad news. Which do you want to hear first? No. Let me start with the good news first. I picked up a giant Drago Fang. It'll make for a great weapon. I figured you could probably use it. As for the bad news... the bad news is... It's where I found the Drago Fang. It was in your... It was pierced through your wife's heart. Flint, just try to stay calm. I think the only reason Klaus and Lucas are safe and sound now is because Hinoa risked her life to protect them.
Flint. Flint?
Flint, I'm not sure what to say, but please try to pull yourself together. Flint, what are you doing? Klaus and Lucas are watching.
Wow, that was intense. This is why we've been in Flint's point of view, so that this scene would hit us the hardest. Everything so far has led to this tragic moment. If this was your first time experiencing this scene, you probably couldn't believe what you were watching. You've been conditioned to believe nothing bad could ever happen to Tasmeli. Even though Hinawa's death was heavily foreshadowed, the simple art style and the talking animals suggested that somehow everything would be okay. When fire raged in the Sunshine Forest, Lighter and Fuel, they were able to be rescued. Fuel may have breathed in some smoke and Lighter might have injured his leg, but they both recovered at a miraculous rate. No one was able to stop the fire, but it didn't matter because the rain put it out anyway. From what we knew about the world of Mother 3, it seemed everything would just figure itself out. But in a single night, the forest burned away, the animals rampaged against humanity, and the people were left in trauma that they were never prepared for. So how does Flint react? With a violent outburst. He demonstrates the carnal human experience at a level rarely met in video game storytelling. In my opinion, this is the single greatest scene in the whole game. To better understand how this scene works so well, let's take a thoroughly deep dive. When we see Bronson run over to Flint, you can see Lighter in the picture for a split second. As we know, he's not just loitering around. Bronson sweats and speaks in a distressing manner. It should already be evident what he has to say. But strangely enough, he addresses it as good news and bad news. What good news could there possibly be? And you don't just call the death of your friend's wife bad news. This substantially weakens the big reveal. In an interview about the game, Shigesato Itoi says, "No matter how you look at it, it is just a game, and it's not a true story. So to get this point across, I tried to make it as exaggerated as I possibly could." When Bronson tries to break the news of Hinawa's death, he says, "I've got good news and bad news." But didn't you find that to be a rotten thing to say? You know what? That's not a bad reason. I respect that. This scene is already dark enough, but it could have been even worse. Like I said before, you can't play this game if you have tears in your eyes. What Flint just went through is something nobody should have to experience, so everything was intentionally toned down a notch. Bud and Lou also contributed to this with their jokes at the start. Back to the scene at hand, Bronson deliberates over which piece of news to give Flint first, opting for the good news. He casually tells Flint that he got him a new weapon, the Drago Fang. It could probably help him, I guess. As for the bad news, Bronson's voice fails him. His words lie between long pauses that fester dread inside their listeners. He struggles to form a complete sentence, but then the music comes to a halt. It was pierced through your wife's heart. Everyone is taken aback, unable to believe what they just heard. A well-fitting thunderbolt shatters the night sky. Flint takes a moment to process. He trembles and collapses in grief. He punches the very earth he inhabits, but hardly even has it in him to strike a third time. Prostrating on the ground, Flint is defeated. Bronson tries the best he can to comfort him, but Flint is unresponsive. He tries to rationalize with Flint that Hinawa's death was the only reason Klaus and Lucas are still alive. Clearly, he has never had to console anyone before. The bystanders close in, wishing they can say or do anything to make the situation better. Tessie walks up to him and begins to speak, but before she can say anything, Flint gets up and knocks her to the ground. Having been still for so long, this was probably shocking to see. Flint's mind is caught in a whirlwind of bereavement. There's nothing he can do. In an outburst of confusion, he tries to hit his problems away. Flint turns towards his children and stares into the fire. Bronson inches closer. Flint thrusts his hand into the fire pit and wields a burning stick. In rage, he smashes the fire out and swings the weapon toward anyone who tries to comfort him. Like a husk, he shambles towards Bronson. Ollie takes his turn at trying to reassure Flint, who threatens him by slamming his stick to the ground. Abbott tells Flint to get it together. He responds by battering Abbott to the ground. He sets his eyes on Duster, and Tessie shields the children's eyes. Ollie creeps up from behind and tries to take the stick from Flint. They wrestle, but Flint prevails. Ollie is slammed to the ground, and Flint trembles to strike him once more. Bronson tries to fight him off, but Flint's wrath is too strong. He raises his weapon again, but Lighter is right behind him with his superior 2x4. Flint is knocked out, and the camera lingers for you to survey all the damage. Abbott and Ollie are seriously injured, the fire is destroyed, and Tessie tries to shield Lucas and Klaus from their father, who lies unconscious in front of them. Lighter, the one who Flint was able to save, was forced to hurt Flint for the protection of those around him. what a scene. As I alluded to with Bronson, these people may have never had to deal with a tragic loss in their life before. Bronson tries to rationalize Flint's pain away, as if he was in good mind to do that. All Flint needed was everybody's respectful silence. But neither did he appear to be prepared for the bad news. In front of his own 2 children, he violently assaulted anyone who wanted to help. Flint, in both description and appearance, is a tough guy who isn't supposed to feel strong emotions. You can't even see his eyes beneath the shadow of his hat. But when he can't suppress his feelings anymore, he loses all control. What started as an already heartbreaking scene of grieving turned into a gut-wrenching brawl of desperation. The music here is best described as broken. The chords at the beginning perfectly encapsulate what's going on in Flint's mind. Everything is slipping away. The rhythm and the harmony fall apart with each chord. The grace notes before each one adds a lot to the rawness of them. The first 3 represent Flint's initial shock as he registers what just happened. They descend, along with his heart, into intense grief. The chords after that lose all semblance of rhythm and become noticeably more dissonant as the bass notes take a sharp descent into the depths of sadness. It's a meticulously jumbled mess of notes. The final chord concludes the sequence as definitively grievous. Strings join in to add a more emotional texture here, and they don't show up anywhere else in the song. The second part of the song isn't as intense, but it's no less sad. Flint has registered the news, and now he's processing it. The melody slides up and down dramatically in between long pauses of contemplation. It makes use of grace notes like the first part, knitting both parts together. The chords are tense, and they never let up. It's a minimalistic song altogether, almost exclusively making use of the piano. The dialogue and the animations of the scene already have a lot of weight to them, so the music helps balance it out. The juxtaposition between the scene and the music is especially impactful whenever Flint lashes out. You might expect more exciting instruments to come out, but the piano is still the only instrument, just as Flint's actions are still just the consequences of his grief. The screen warps as it fades to black. In his unconsciousness, Flint is taken back to a better time. The colors are overwhelmingly bright as we watch Flint say goodbye to Hinawa for the last time. We don't actually get to hear what they're saying, but it doesn't matter because the animations tell us all we need. Klaus and Lucas get restless and they start begging to get on their way. Klaus gets a head start while Lucas drags Hinawa away. Boney's riled up in all the excitement. As they part ways, Flint mutters something that makes them turn around. They stare at each other for a long time. Klaus gets bored and he walks off screen, and Lucas follows suit, taking Hinawa with him. Boney barks goodbye and Flint tips his hat. He goes back inside to prepare for another day with the sheep. Then we see the interaction from Flint's point of view. Hinawa is the only person in sight, surrounded by a heavenly light. As she leaves this earth, Flint returns to reality. But before we move on, of course, we have to talk about the music here. This is called the Mother 3 Love Theme, and it's the most important song in the game. Each game in the Earthbound series has a simple central theme like this. The melody is as basic as it gets. It's as fundamental as love itself. We first heard the love theme when Lucas and Klaus play-fought with the Dragos before we knew they could do anything wrong. And here it plays again as Flint reminisces over what once was. This time it's played by an intimate music box. The chords are warm and comforting, playing one note at a time softly. They follow the direction of the melody. For the first phrase, it plays heartfelt chords that evoke the feeling of safety. In the second phrase, it gets a little more adventurous. The bass makes tiny steps downward for the whole measure, but it still feels gentle because the notes don't all play at once. The last note jumps further down than the rest to add some finality. When the melody repeats, a shimmering string orchestra enters. It adds more depth and sincerity to the song. In the second half, it completely takes over. The strings take dramatic leaps in notes, fitting Flint's glorious memories of Hinawa. When she fades away, so does the music. The music box twinkles one last time, bidding her farewell.
No one's ever been thrown into Tazmilly's jail before. You have the honor of being the first. Flint, you gave Ollie and Abbott a real walloping, but they're all right now. About Hinawa, I can only offer my deepest condolences. Still, why would a Drago attack someone? They're such friendly creatures. Take it easy in here for a while. I know you must be having a hard time with this, but try and get some sleep. The Drago fang that was stuck in Hinawa's chest, I'll hold on to it for you. When you get out of here, come and drop by my house and get it. Don't forget now.
Flint wakes up behind bars, a side of the jail no one's ever seen before. It seems like Tazmily truly was an innocent utopia before this incident. But however violent Flint was, Bronson still forgives him, enough to entrust him with a new weapon, in fact. He knows Flint went through unimaginable things last night, and that he's only human. All he wishes for him is that he gets some rest. Tazmily is wounded, but not defeated. Everybody still loves each other, and will be mourning the loss of Hinawa for years to come. For now, Flint rests in his cell, recovering from that fateful night.